Tonight, a teenage shark attack survivor tells of her frightening ordeal on Victoria's surf coast. Also, lunchtime drama in the city. Police swoop on an armed man. Details live. Some of Australia's biggest stars on COVID alert as the Treasurer calls for Omicron calm. A car rollover in Melbourne's north, a family of 5 lucky to be alive. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange a step closer to being extradited to America. And Nathan Lyon takes his 400th Test wicket. The Aussies crush England to take first Test honours at the Gabba.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Blake Johnson starts now.
Good evening. A teenager who survived a shark attack at Ocean Grove says she still loves sharks. In an interview with 7 News, the 15-year-old has relived the terrifying ordeal, revealing the extent of her wounds and her plans to return to the water.
Home from hospital and wheelchair-bound, Tiana Athanasiou and her family know just how lucky she is.
And then I got out of the water, my leg was like hanging off. And I was like, well, this is crazy.
She's in one piece because all the people that were down there on that day, that's for sure. It could have been much worse.
The 15-year-old was in shoulder-deep water with her friend Jack when she was mauled by a shark at Ocean Grove on Monday.
I love sharks, so I was like, oh yeah. And then I was like, wait, it's on my leg. I freaked out and I flung my arm and then it grabbed me here. And then Jack fought it off and then pushed me and was like, swim, you have to go to shore.
Her mother was also left in disbelief.
It was all very surreal at the time. You kind of just go into autopilot and, be really strong for her.
Doctors say it's a miracle Tiana didn't lose her leg and thumb. She's expected to make a full recovery and was even able to attend her sister's dead ball last night. The beach has reopened since the attack on Monday night, and although lifeguards have spent the past few days searching for the shark, both by helicopter and on jet skis, there hasn't been a sighting since. Tiana has a message for strangers who rushed to help her in the water and on the beach.
Thank you for everything that they did, because if they didn't help me, I would have probably lost my leg. I probably would have drowned, really.
But it might take a little time to get back into the ocean.
I'm a bit scared because, sharks are still my favourite animal. I love sharks. I don't think he meant it.
Cassie Zervos, 7 News.
There's been a dramatic arrest in the city after a man swung a weapon at members of the public. Live now to Paul Dowsley. Paul, police quickly swooped on the man.
And it's little wonder, Blake, given what we understand happened about 20 to 2 this afternoon. This man with a knife was jumping between the platforms here at the tram stop, waving the knife, swinging and lunging at people, at pedestrians there. They were running and screaming, according to one witness I spoke with. Police have responded, an officer pointing his taser at this man, who is by then on the ground, a 25-year-old from Sunshine North. As he was arrested, he was shouting at police on the ground as he was handcuffed, and officers searched his backpack, removing and checking all the contents on the footpath before he was then taken away. Police say he is now in hospital being assessed tonight, Blake. They are asking for anyone who saw any part of this, particularly those who captured any video or photos, to please contact Crime Stoppers.
Paul Dowsley in the city. Some of Australia's highest profile celebrities have been caught up in a COVID scare. A caterer who worked at this week's ACTA Awards has tested positive, putting big names on high alert.
Attended by superstars of film and TV, the ACTA Awards, now a potential super spreader event. The Sydney Opera House today confirmed a caterer was positive while working the celebrity function on Wednesday night. Among the attendees, Rebel Wilson, who bypassed quarantine to enter Australia.
New South Wales Health remains concerned about the increased COVID-19 transmission taking place in large social venues.
COVID has also spread along with Christmas cheer at holiday parties in New South Wales. New infections there have surged to 560, while cases of the new Omicron variant now total 45.
Once it starts taking over from Delta, it's likely to outcompete Delta. We're going to learn a lot more again.
The UK is bracing for Omicron to become the dominant strain within a week.
Indeed, we may be starting to experience a potential tsunami of infections.
It's creeping in here too. Victoria has 3 confirmed Omicron cases and 7 under investigation. Victoria numbers remain steady with almost 1,200 new cases, but hospitalisations are up, as are ICU admissions. Of 13 deaths reported today, 7 occurred last month. Testing numbers are at a near record high.
We have 259 testing clinics open right now. That's a 55% increase since October.
Community vigilance keeping Victoria open for business and Christmas. Jodie Lee, 7 News.
Federal Treasurer Josh Frydenberg is urging the states to keep calm and not overreact to the Omicron variant, as our economic recovery depends on it. Disaster payments and lockdowns have had a bigger impact than expected.
A message from the Treasurer to Premiers: don't walk back on your promise.
States need to keep calm and carry on.
Carry on with reopening before Christmas. Don't
overreact to the Omicron variant.
Because
our economic recovery depends upon it.
After the economy took a massive hit due to the recent Delta lockdowns, a budget update next week will show billions more spent on disaster payments, higher debt and lower economic growth.
People suffered this year because of this government's incompetence.
But Josh Frydenberg is confident things are looking up.
The economy is bouncing back very strongly.
And economists agree.
Because of I think stronger corporate revenue, we're going to see a substantially lower budget deficit for this financial year.
So long as the states stick to their reopening plan.
We have so far, we've followed our plan. We are announcing further reduction in restrictions on people quarantining.
The federal government is also pinning its re-election hopes on the country's economic recovery. New lockdowns or even restrictions due to Omicron will damage the coalition's chances of pulling off another miracle win. The Treasurer pointing to early data suggesting the Omicron variant is not as bad as Delta and insists our high vaccination rates will provide much needed protection.
Australians can go into Christmas confident about their future.
Walking away from another trying year. Jennifer Beshwati, 7 News.
A scenic ride through the Yarra Ranges has ended in tragedy. A motorcyclist was killed when his bike collided with the car on a bend on Woods Point Road. The male rider is yet to be identified and the cause of the crash is under investigation. 3 children and their parents are in hospital after the family car flipped in a crash at Mickleham. Police were stunned to find the driver and front passenger were not wearing seatbelts.
A family car on its roof. A couple and 3 children were in the ute when it crashed. When it came to a stop, the mother wasn't inside.
During the rollover, the female front passenger was ejected from the vehicle and has subsequently ended up away from the vehicle off the side of the road. It appears to be a case of failing to wear a seatbelt.
Police say the woman's husband, the driver, also wasn't buckled up when they clipped another car and flipped on Mickleham Road.
It's frustrating. It's been the message for a very long time. It's something very simple to do.
The 31-year-old woman was airlifted to hospital with internal injuries. Her husband and 3 children taken by road ambulance. Officers stunned to find the children aged between 6 and 10 in the back were not properly restrained in child booster seats.
Kids were all quite young, understandably upset, a couple of them crying.
It's alleged their father had attempted to overtake cars waiting to turn, swerving around them on the wrong side of the road. A moment of impatience that could have claimed a family of 5.
It's a pretty silly manoeuvre overall, and they're probably very fortunate that ultimately they haven't hit something more solid.
This entire family remains in hospital tonight. The mother, who was thrown from the ute, is in a critical condition, while her 3 young children are still being monitored by doctors at the Royal Children's Hospital. Police are waiting to speak to their father, who remains in a stable condition. They're investigating whether drugs, alcohol or speed contributed to the crash and say he could face charges relating to failing to ensure his family was properly restrained wearing seatbelts. Blake?
Jade Vincent there in Parkville. The hunt is on for a sex offender known to visit St Kilda and South Melbourne. Marvin Morgan hasn't spoken to police in 11 days and is missing from his Glen Huntly home. Anyone who sees the 48-year-old should contact 000 immediately. Notorious conman Peter Foster has been extradited from Victoria to Queensland to face fraud charges over a multi-million-dollar Bitcoin scheme. Despite arriving in handcuffs, Foster says he's glad to be back in his home state.
Are you going to fight the charges?
Oh yeah, this is nonsense. This is bogus. I'm not worried about this at all.
Foster had been on the run for 6 months before his arrest in Melbourne after skipping bail in Sydney. The US is another step closer to extraditing Australian WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange after winning a key court battle in London. Assange's partner says it will drive him to suicide and is vowing to appeal.
His supporters with a now familiar catch cry.
Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange!
At London's Royal Courts of Justice, news Julian Assange is far from freedom. A decision handed down in the shadow of Australia's High Commission. Assange's partner describing it as a grave miscarriage of justice.
If Julian is extradited and placed under extreme conditions of isolation, it will drive him to take his own life.
But in securing its appeal win, the United States vowed the 50-year-old won't be held in a supermax prison, will be entitled to psychological treatment and can apply to serve any sentence in Australia if he's convicted in an American court, where he faces 18 mostly espionage-related charges for publishing secret US war logs. It's more than a decade since WikiLeaks first published the documents at the centre of this case. That's become an extradition process locked up in the British courts for 2.5 years. And it's not over yet. Assange's supporters vowing to lodge their own appeal in the UK Supreme Court. For now, the Australian remains in London's Belmarsh prison.
We will fight. Every generation has an epic fight to fight, and this is ours.
With still a long road ahead. In London, Hugh Whitfield, 7 News.
Police are pushing for a crackdown on stalkers. They want anyone who breaches intervention orders to face harsher punishment, particularly if they do it repeatedly. It follows the death of Celeste Mano, allegedly murdered by a former work colleague at her home in Mernda. The force also wants greater powers to compel social media dating sites to give them evidence. Shadow Minister David Davis has lost a bid to be pre-selected for the state seat of Kew. That's been vacated by disgraced MP Tim Smith. Meanwhile, former opposition leader Michael O'Brien has survived a pre-selection challenge from two party rivals, including Stonington councillor Alexander Liu. He's now considering a return to the front bench.
I understand there's a vacancy now in Shadow Cabinet. I'll certainly have that conversation with Matthew and the leadership team.
Meanwhile, former Minister Adam Somyurek has commented on Labor's pre-selection tensions, calling Premier Daniel Andrews a mad king and urging MPs to tear him down. There's now just one member of the Monkees pop group left following the death of Michael Nesmith, who has passed away at his home in California, aged 78. Although others wrote the Monkees hits, Nesmith was a songwriter in his own right and split from the band to pursue a solo career.
Hey, we're the Monkees. Mike Nesmith, singer, guitarist and 1/4 of the Monkees.
And people say we monkey around.
Put together to cash in on the success of the Beatles, the Monkees, conceived as a TV show, produced a string of hits during the late 60s.
Take the last train to Clarksville and I'll meet you at the station.
The Monkees were met by screaming fans for their concert tour of Australia in 1968. But their popularity evaporated when their sitcom finished, the band breaking up in 1970. Despite their success, the band never saw much of the money, but Nesmith's mother invented liquid paper, and he inherited a fortune. As a solo artist, Nesmith had some hits.
And I think I will travel to Rio.
Davy Jones passed away in 2012. Peter Tork died 2 years ago. Mickey Dolenz now the last surviving Monkey.
Then I saw her fade. Now I'm a believer.
Mike Nesmith was 78. Raymond Dale, 7 News.
Australia has made a dream start to the Ashes series with a crushing victory over England in the first test. Pat Cummins admits he had plenty of luck in a perfect debut as captain, while the English skipper defended a series of costly blunders.
All over in less than 3.5 days.
Dream start for Australia.
Out of the Tim Payne mess, a 9-wicket victory to start the Pat Cummins era. Paddy Perfect really is cricket's golden boy.
Yeah, exceptionally proud. Couldn't have asked for a better start, but still a lot of work to do.
The big moment came early today.
That's out.
Nathan Lyon's 400th Test wicket.
17th man in Test cricket history.
Shane Warne and Glenn McGrath welcome a former groundsman to their club.
It's just very nice to come out here and play my role within the team and get the result that we were after.
From there, a familiar English collapse, this felt like the bad old days for the Barmy Army, thinking, here we go again. Captain Joe Root's under the blowtorch. Why win the toss and bat on a green top? Why leave out Jimmy Anderson and Stuart Broad, nearly 1,200 wickets worth?
I think batting first was the right decision. I think now is completely the wrong time to start talking about selection.
It could all be over long before the day-night fifth test in Hobart, confirmed today. Tasmania paid around $4 million. New South Wales and Victoria offered much more.
For Sydney and for Melbourne, they've already got a test. We're just delighted that we've been able to play a test at every single venue.
Except Perth. Adelaide's next from Thursday. Can the Empire strike back? Matt Carmichael, 7 News.
But the Aussies have some injury concerns heading into the second test. Jackie Felgate, the longer break could be a blessing.
Hello, Blake. Yes, it could be. David Warner is still nursing sore ribs, while Josh Hazelwood could also be in doubt for Adelaide. Also ahead, a dramatic final over seals a tense win for the Melbourne Stars at the MCG. Lewis Hamilton gets the upper hand in Formula One's most bitter rivalry ahead of the season's final race. And Blake will meet the Aussie snowboarder setting her sights on gold at the Winter Olympics.
See you soon, Jack. Thanks very much. It's been another record round of auctions across Melbourne. Up next, is the real estate bonanza about to reach its peak? Also, major road closures for tomorrow's Melbourne Marathon. Pop star Taylor Swift in a plagiarism scandal. Christmas wishes from the Cambridges. And later, the medical breakthrough sparing osteoarthritis sufferers from knee replacements. Close to 2,500 homes are scheduled to go under the hammer in yet another record weekend for Melbourne. The high volume of stock is promising for buyers with more choice in securing a home before Christmas.
Congratulations. Christmas has come early for first home buyers Luke and Shelby.
I feel very excited, but I'm also still shaking.
Jittery?
Yeah.
It's done now.
Scoring the keys to this 3-bedroom property in Ringwood after 2 years of house hunting.
We wanted to be in the area, so finding the right place in the area was tricky, but I'm glad we did.
Vendors and purchasers both over the moon. It just sold for $870, which is a fantastic result.
A massive 2,480 auctions are scheduled this week across 400 suburbs, nearly all of them in Metro Melbourne. Leading the way, Reservoir, Northcote, Mount Waverley, Preston, Pasco Vale, St Kilda East, Glen Waverley, South Yarra, Malvern East and Brunswick.
The number of properties hitting the market in Melbourne at the moment is well at record levels, more than double what we saw 12 months ago.
The high volume of stock this month hopeful for buyers.
We're coming from conditions that were an extreme seller's market to a market that's moving a little bit towards some balance.
Over the last few weeks, we've actually seen a slight easing in competition, but the prices are remaining.
And today's clearance results are in. Sarah Jones, you have the details.
Blake, 73% is the clearance rate recorded this week. That's down 2% on last week. 1,145 auctions were reported to the REIV, 838 sold, while 307 were passed in. Blake?
Another busy weekend. Sarah, thank you. And some of the city's busiest roads will shut tomorrow for the Melbourne Marathon. St Kilda Road, Beach Road and Batman Avenue will be closed until 1 p.m. to cater for the 42-kilometre event, causing major congestion. But organisers say it's worth it.
It's great to see Melbourne up and running again, really, isn't it? So, yeah, we're really excited. Having missed 2020, it was a super effort to get this show on the road for 2021.
Great to have it back, obviously, with a couple of years of COVID interruptions. It's been a long time coming, and when you get in the MCG, obviously, cross that finish line, really celebrate.
Around 18,000 people are registered to run the full marathon tomorrow afternoon. Pop star Taylor Swift has been ordered to face trial and let a jury decide if she stole the lyrics of her biggest-selling single. A US court has thrown out the singer's attempt to shake off the copyright fight that she calls a money grab.
Forbes lists her among the world's 100 most powerful women. Spotify says she's the second most streamed musician of them all. Now, a jury will decide whether Taylor Swift is also a plagiarist. The American singer-songwriter and 2 producers wrote Shake It Off. 7 years ago, it became the star's biggest-selling song. This line. Now in a legal spotlight alongside this. A 20-year-old hit from American girl group 3LW. They quickly noticed similarities.
When the song came out, I'm not going to front, like, we all were like, oh, that's dope. Like, it kind of sounds like the song that we had. Does it mean that she actually, I don't know.
Today, 3LW has no issue posting love and respect for Taylor and her team. It's the 2 songwriters that wrote the 3LW lyrics that claim Taylor Swift ripped off their work. After a 4-year legal battle, a judge here in California has ruled they can take their case to a jury.
Everybody approaches lyrics differently. I have a bit of a habit in choosing something that is a phrase that people often say in conversation.
The artist not commenting directly, though in an earlier ruling, the same judge cited 13 songs with similar phrases and decided the lyrics were too banal to warrant any copyright protection at all. In the United States, Tim Lester, 7 News.
Now to a festive greeting from William, Kate and the kids. The Cambridges have released their family Christmas photo. It was taken in Jordan earlier this year, featuring 8-year-old George, 6-year-old Charlotte and 3-year-old Louis. All right, Estelle Greeping joins us now. Estelle, some parts of the state are feeling very soggy tonight.
Well, Blake, heavy rainfall has led to flooding throughout the Snowy River catchment. This is what it looked like at Orbost today, the river there rising more than 6.5 metres high. But the most major flooding was seen in the Snowy River at Jarramond, where the river swelled to 8 metres high, and Basin Creek downstream on the river reached 6.3. But in Melbourne, we stayed dry and relatively warm. And I'll tell you whether it'll stay that way after sport. Blake?
See you shortly, Estelle. Thank you. Your backyard balcony could be a death trap. Coming up, the urgent warning as Victorians fire up the barbie. Also, is your kinder kid ready for school? Advice for parents. Millions of dollars to help Victorian storm victims, and sacred ground, transforming Australia's war memorial for future generations. There's more help on the way to clean up areas still reeling from devastating storms in June. Almost 2 million hectares of public land around Gippsland, Macedon and the Dandenong Ranges were badly hit. $73 million will be used to clear trees, repair roads, fix power lines and other safety work. There's a warning tonight to check your balcony before hosting parties this festive season. This year's unusual weather has increased the risk they could collapse, but there are simple things to look out for to make sure your loved ones stay safe.
This balcony has a serious risk of collapsing.
What this is indicating is that the structure here has given away, so this needs quite a bit of work.
It's not in great condition. We actually don't use the decking very often, just because it looks a little bit dicey.
And conditions in 2021 have made it even more dangerous.
We've also had a very wet winter, which will accelerate the rotting of timbers and the rusting.
Because of the COVID lockdowns, many tradespeople haven't been permitted to check things like balconies.
We're encouraged to gather outdoors for COVID reasons, but decks can also be a major hazard with potentially fatal consequences, like in 2017 when 2 women died in a collapse at a Doncaster Christmas party.
There would be throughout Australia tens of thousands of balconies that would not be in a condition at the moment that would safely hold a large number of people.
But there are warning signs to look out for, like rot and rust, termite damage, loose bolts or bricks, puddles at the base, cracks in concrete, and remember to shake handrails, balustrades and posts to see if they're secure. A professional builder, engineer or architect can tell you if they need to be fixed. It's important to do a safety check before having a function, as 20 people gathered together is roughly the same weight as a family car, with barbecues, pots and fridges adding extra pressure. Now Natalie knows what needs to be done. She's planning major renovations.
I would put a seat and table and maybe enjoy some quiet time.
Rachel Ward, 7 News.
There's been a sharp rise in anxiety levels amongst our littlest learners, with lengthy lockdowns preventing young children from being prepared to start school. Experts warn parents now is the time to assess whether a child is ready for school next year.
Starting school is a big milestone for our littlest learners.
Have a library, reading, do homework.
Does that sound fun?
Kind of not. Eating lollies.
Eating lollies?
You actually get to buy them at canteen.
But prolonged lockdowns mean many children will have to start school without the full 600 hours of early education they require.
These children who might have normally been very ready for school are perhaps not quite there yet.
A recent Australian study shows there's been a 20% increase in children under 5 experiencing anxiety and depression during the pandemic.
We're noticing that there are more children displaying signs of anxiety, perhaps an immaturity socially, but that's to be expected.
And for some young children, that means they might not actually be ready to start big school next year. Teachers say there are signs that parents can look out for.
Is the later in the year children and the more sensitive children and the children who may be neurodivergent, they're obviously ones that we would be concentrating on.
For those kids ready and raring to go, parents are being advised to use the holidays to catch up.
Let's get out there and play, more play dates, more opportunities to interact with people socially on the weekends, just to give them that top up of those social experiences.
Holiday homework for us all. Sally Bowery, 7 News.
New research has revealed the cars most likely to be stolen, and the results might surprise you. Topping the list, not a high-value Range Rover or BMW, but a Holden Commodore. Coming in second is the Ford Ranger, and third, the Toyota Hilux. Thieves tend to prefer older models because they are easier to steal. Lawyers for accused sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell will begin their defence next week after prosecutors rested their case today. During 2 weeks of evidence, 4 accusers testified that Maxwell introduced them to Jeffrey Epstein when they were as young as 14. All described sexual abuse, often at the hands of both Maxwell and Epstein. Prosecutors alleged the couple were partners in crime, Maxwell recruiting underage victims for Epstein to abuse. Her defence argues she is the scapegoat for prosecution because Epstein is no longer alive. A monster waterspout has been captured swirling off the coast of Italy. This was filmed from a balcony in Ostia, a neighbourhood in Rome. Witnesses say it lasted about 15 minutes, heading south before disappearing. The doors of the Australian War Memorial are flying open for visitors again after being shut for more than 3 months. Major renovations have been underway to transform the monument into a remarkable new museum, honouring our fallen and serving soldiers.
In the heart of Canberra stands one of the most sacred buildings in the country, a place to recognise sacrifice, service and honour the stories of Australia's rich military history. 2021 marks 80 years since the Australian War Memorial first opened.
Declare the Australian National War Memorial open.
Those doors open once again after lockdown forced it to close for 99 days.
You're closing the doors to people who want to come to the Australian War Memorial to commemorate.
COVID-19 has brought about some changes. Though entry is still free, visitors must check in and...
The most obvious change is that people are required to book online before they come.
It's popular too, voted in the top 10 attractions in the country by TripAdvisor and recently awarded a Traveller's Choice Award for consistently high reviews. The Australian War Memorial is currently undergoing a $500 million expansion project. So while it may look like a construction site on the outside, operators are quick to point out on the inside, the experience remains as sacred as ever.
Those who want to visit the Tomb of the Unknown Australian Soldier, place a poppy on the Roll of Honour, visit the First and Second World War galleries, all those things that they know and love about this place are still on and still happening.
The costly redevelopment set to make way for a new entrance, galleries and research centre, along with an upgraded Anzac Hall, to continue to tell the stories of conflicts, past and present.
Will give us the space that we need to honour the current veterans in the same way that this memorial has always honoured those who have served, suffered and died for our country.
Taylor Aiken, 7 News.
Hundreds of patients could avoid painful knee replacements. It's thanks to a Melbourne medical breakthrough. Details are next on 7 News. Also, why private health funds have been put on notice. The push to get Victorians to drink local brews. And thousands flock to Melbourne's biggest exhibition since the pandemic began. Private health funds have been put on notice as the federal government once again knocks back a planned increase. Federal Health Minister Greg Hunt has rejected bids from insurance companies to charge customers higher premiums. They have less than a week to come back with another proposal. Health funds argue the rising cost of medical devices should result in higher premiums. Swimmer Shayna Jack says she's moving on from her drug ban in 2019. Jack copped a now dismissed suspension from the sport after testing positive to a restricted substance. In her first competition since serving the ban, the 23-year-old came close to a personal best.
So only 0.3 off my best ever time. There was always that percentage that I potentially was never going to be back here, and I'm just proud to be standing here today.
The swimmer says she's focused on making the team for the Commonwealth Games and Paris Olympics. Hundreds of people with osteoarthritis have been spared knee replacement surgery thanks to a revolutionary new program. The Melbourne University trial has seen participants reduce pain and lose weight.
There's a spring in every step Alan Miller takes. For the first time in years, the 69-year-old is moving freely.
My knees were really giving me a lot of pain, and I knew that if I didn't improve them, that surgery would be definitely on the cards.
Once a pro golfer, Alan suffered sporting injuries and the good life took its toll. He tipped the scales at 135 kilos. Like 1 in 8 Australians, Alan has osteoarthritis. Hoping to avoid a knee replacement, he joined a 6-month Melbourne University diet and exercise program called Better Knee, Better Me. 415 osteoarthritis patients accessed physiotherapists and dietitians via telehealth, one group undertaking a low-energy diet.
Both groups showed significant benefits for pain and function. They led to about 70% of participants no longer willing to undergo surgery on their knee.
On average, 4 out of 5 achieved significant improvement in pain levels. Alan lost a staggering 41 kilos in just 6 months, and he's kept it off.
I feel healthier, I'm breathing better.
2.1 million Australians have osteoarthritis or degeneration of joint cartilage. The condition is expected to skyrocket in the next 10 years due to our ageing population and increasing rates of obesity. Health insurer Medibank is now offering the program to members, and it's hoped it will become widely available as an alternative to surgery. Jackie Quist, 7 News.
The state government wants us to get on the beers this summer, as long as they're produced here. The Drink Victorian campaign encourages bars and restaurants to stock locally made liquor and patrons to purchase it.
Wine, beer, cider, spirits, whiskies, you name it, we've got it. It's some of the best in the world.
The initiative is jointly funded with the beverage industry. Thousands of colourful superfans have flooded the city for the largest exhibition since the beginning of the pandemic, Comic-Con, giving them all the chance to embrace life after lockdown.
They're super fans who are super dedicated to dressing up and stepping out.
We are back. How exciting after, 18 months.
At Comic-Con, the bolder, the better, as screen and comic characters come to life.
Oh, it's amazing, because I don't wear this at home normally.
For some, the car park was a dressing room. Others came in made up.
What was the train trip on the way in like?
Oh, it was fun.
You didn't catch the train?
I did.
You did?
I did.
In this?
Yes, and I got a few looks.
I actually had COVID when I was making this, so I was in quarantine and had nothing else to do.
For the 7,500 who went to Jeff's Shed today and the same tomorrow, it's a game of Guess Who.
I'm 11. I'm Asuka Langley.
The Scarlet Witch. Back to the Future. Vampire Diary.
We're from Fallout 76.
I'm Lumiere from Beauty and the Beast.
I'm Wally. Xena Warrior Princess.
I'm Mad Moxie from Borderlands. This took a month or two of constant working.
This is actually bringing communities together, and it's like a real healing process.
As police compared their weapons with the plastic kind, there was dancing and prancing, the sweet and scary, with splashes of pink, green and gold. So many committed to a look that was eye-popping and eye-stopping.
I've got about visibility to about maybe 20 centimetres.
I get such a buzz out of this, don't we, Evelyn? It's such a ball to dress up.
How many push-ups can Thor do?
Lots. In this costume, not many though.
When choosing a cosplay outfit, the suggestion is to go for a look that matches your vibe. So for me, it's obviously shiny, and I've found the perfect fit.
Paul Dowsley, 7 News.
Dark, very dark. The Aussies soaking up an emphatic win in the first test. Jackie Felgate, it all ended rather quickly for England.
Hello again, Blake. Yes, it did. 8 wickets fell before lunch at the Gabba to dash the tourists' hopes of a comeback. Nathan Lyon led the way with a 4-wicket haul, also claiming his 400th test scalp for Australia. Plus, the two local stars leading the way at Greg Norman's Shark Shootout in Florida. Lewis Hamilton gets the edge over his rival, heading into the Formula One season finale. And the Aussie snowboarder on track for a medal at the Beijing Winter Olympics. Welcome back. Australia has gone 1-0 up in the first test after a crushing first session at the Gabba on day 4. England collapsed, losing 8 for 74 before lunch. The 9-wicket win, gifting the home side a massive advantage in the series.
Day 4, the Empire was poised to strike back. Hazelwood struggling, Warner with sore ribs, sidelined. How could the pundits have seen this?
Dream start for Australia. 1 up in this Ashes series.
Take a bow, Pat Cummins, a leader for a crisis.
Let's be calm. Let's go do the basics really well, and when our chance comes, let's be ruthless.
With the match teetering, Australia's answer was simple: leave it to Lyon.
That's out.
326 days after his 399th test scalp, finally.
Great moment for Nathan Lyon.
Only the 17th test player to do it.
It was a big relief, yeah. I had a lot of banter going on, so it was probably on my mind a lot more, but I'm one for saying the next wicket is always the hardest one to get.
399 test wickets behind the off-spinner was Cameron Green.
The Australians have England's captain.
An outswinger with dramatic repercussions. England's castle crumbled. At one point they lost 5 for 48. Pope gone, Stokes squared up by a rampaging skipper.
Cummins strikes again.
Lord Vader arrived for the kill. He wasn't kept waiting. Hazelwood produced the perfect fitness test.
This day just keeps getting better.
Then a paceman with a reverse sweep.
And out. Oh dear.
Australia's 2 day 4 stars mopped up. Lyon got wood, Green's scalp was special.
His 3rd wicket of the match.
And on debut, a record-breaking 8th catch for Alex Carey. Unforgettable for the keeper, stunning for the new skipper, who's more concerned about his fast-bowling ace, Josh Hazelwood.
I think a key is we don't want to put him in jeopardy for the whole series, so we'll take our time.
Time is not an ally for Joe Root.
Ultimately, sometimes that game coming round quite quickly is exactly what you need. You want to get straight back out there and you want to put things right.
Hostilities resume Thursday in Adelaide. Pat Welch, 7 News.
7 cricket expert Matt Hayden believes Nathan Lyon could dominate England now that the spinner has taken a test wicket 400. But he's concerned opener David Warner won't beat a rib injury in time for the second test. For his analysis, let's head to the Gabba, where the Ashes great is with 7 reporter Katie Brown.
Thank you, Matty. Wow. We won. We haven't won the series. We won't get carried away. But the lead into it and everything that's happened over the last 4 and a bit days, we win at the Gabba and we've proved that we are fortress once again.
Yeah, the short versions of the game, they obviously grab some attention, but the longer version Test match has all the drama, doesn't it? And of course, Nathan Lyon stuck on 399 wickets, which seems like an eternity over a full year of play through Test cricket. So him getting up and playing well is a very ominous sign for Australian cricket.
There's concerns around David Warner. In your opinion, do you think he'll be fit to bat in Adelaide?
Yeah, it'll be surprising to see him play. He's really, really hurt. I said to him before the start of the day that he needs a bit of my fat to protect his ribs. He's that skinny, ball on bone is no good, but he's a fighter. He's a great street fighter, so don't be expected to not see him there. But it's going to be tough for him to get up because he's really sore. He can't even laugh at my bad jokes.
In the Big Bash, Melbourne Stars have clinched a thriller against Sydney Thunder. A brilliant final over from Adam Zampa reined in the Thunder's run chase, led by English import Sam Billings, who belted 43 off 31 balls. But skipper Glenn Maxwell's late fumble almost cost the Stars the match.
Slashing goes Ross. Could he be caught? Drop! Maxwell's put him down.
and you can barely believe what you've seen.
West Indies recruit Andre Russell managed 17 runs but no wickets. COVID protocols separating him from his teammates. Lewis Hamilton has made the first statement ahead of his title decider against Max Verstappen in Formula One's season finale. Seeking a history-making 8th world title, Hamilton topped practice while Verstappen struggled on the rebuilt Abu Dhabi circuit.
We're still learning and understanding a few things, but of course clearly the short run didn't go to plan, lacking a bit of pace.
I'm sure it's going to be super close like it has been in the previous races.
The fierce rivals are tied on points going into the final race, while practice came to an abrupt halt for Alpha driver Kimi Räikkönen. It's been an all-Aussie affair at Greg Norman's Sharks shootout with Jason Day and Mark Leishman, the first-round leaders. Played in a two-person scramble format, Team Australia were hot on the greens and just off them.
Made one at 6 and did it again at 10.
Kidding me? Mr. Hole out.
Come on.
Day and Leishman stormed home with 2 eagles and 12 birdies to lead at 16 under. And the Aussies are on fire in the lead-up to the Winter Olympics. Deep in the Austrian mountains, in the blue bib, Bell Brockhoff was just pipped for gold in this morning's round of the World Cup snowboard cross. The 28-year-old competed at the Pyeongchang Games with a torn ACL, but is right in contention for glory in Beijing, which is now just 55 days away. And isn't that a wonderful day? Way to wrap up a big day in sport.
It is, Jack. Thank you very much for that. Estelle's next with the forecast. Estelle, after a slow start to summer, we have some warm days on the way.
Well, Blake, we have plenty of sunshine in store. I'll tell you how hot it'll get next. Hello again. We've had a mild, dry day in Melbourne today, but it's been a different story elsewhere, with flood warnings continuing tonight for some parts of eastern Victoria. In the city today, from a low of 12, we reached a top of 22. No rain was recorded in the gauge, and it's been that way for 2 days now. But other parts of our state have been inundated with rain, with flooding along the Snowy River. Tonight, a warning remains in place for these areas. The SES is reminding people to never drive through floodwaters. Taking a look at the satellite, and a low pressure system near New South Wales is moving east, along with a high pressure system south of Tasmania. Around the nation tomorrow, in Sydney's looking partly cloudy with a possible shower, while Brisbane stays dry and warm. Adelaide gets well into the 30s and lots of sunshine too for Perth, with not a drop of rain in sight. To Victoria and Gippsland could get some light showers that should clear by the afternoon. Elsewhere, it'll be dry and mostly sunny. Across our suburbs, after some early morning fog, we can expect plenty of sunshine. In the city, from a low of 11, we'll reach a top of 26. The perfect day for a picnic with no rain at all. To the 7-day outlook, and we'll start the working week with the warmest temperature we've seen in months, 32 degrees and mostly sunny. But we'll get relief from that heat come Tuesday, when it's back down to 23. Partly cloudy and a possible thunderstorm around the hills. The hills get some morning fog on Wednesday, and we should prepare for a shower or two, but the risk of rain is low on Thursday, when we're a partly cloudy 21. Then we round out the week on a top of 27, but this time next week we're in for another warm one, a top of 33. So summer is finally here. But tomorrow, the clouds clear for lots of sunshine. After some fog over the outer suburbs, it'll be warm and dry, and from a low of 11, we'll reach a top of 26. Blake?
Perfect weather indeed. Estelle, thank you. That is 7 News for now. Thanks for making us part of your Saturday. We'll have updates later from the news team. Good night.